lovely colouring friends. My name's Amanda and this is my channel, Amanda Colours. How are you today? I hope you are doing really well. Lovely little Emerald is here and she says hello to you all, and she wanted me to let you know that Australia has over 60 separate wine regions. So a lot of people associate Australia or Australians with beer drinking, but we had amazing people come over from Europe, particularly after World War II, but also before that, and started a whole bunch of separate wine areas throughout the country, and I actually live near one of them. I don't actually drink wine, but it's a nice touristy area to go visit anyway. But yeah, over 60 different wine regions. So there you go. I am finally back. Do I hear a hallelujah? I'm finally back with another video in the Mythical Minis series. So this kind of fell off the wagon a bit last year and I was hoping to get back to it last month, but I wasn't feeling so well. I'm still not feeling great, but you know, life still has to go on. So if you're new to the channel, the Mythical Minis series is where I choose a page out of Camellia Angel Cover's 50 Mythical Miniatures colouring book, which is here, and I then colour that mythical creature and I give you the backstory, the lore, the myths about that creature, which I have found really interesting, and it seems like you guys do too. So because it's February, or February as some of us like to refer to it, I am going to do the fairy. So as I said, I'm going to colour the fairy and I'll do a voiceover and let you know about the origins of fairies and some of the myths and folklores about them. I am going to colour with my Copic markers. I have some that are the sketch oval shaped markers, and I have mostly the round chow markers. So I'll be using those and probably some other embellishments like sparkly pens and things at the end. Everything will be listed down in the description, and let's get started. A fairy, also known as fae or fair folk, is a type of mythical being or legendary creature found in the folklore of multiple European cultures, including Celtic, Slavic, Germanic and French folklore, a form of spirit, often with a metaphysical or supernatural qualities. Myths and stories about fairies do not have a single origin, but are rather a collection of folk beliefs from disparate sources. Various folk theories about the origins of fairies include casting them as either demoted angels or demons in a Christian tradition, as deities in pagan belief systems, as spirits of the dead, as prehistoric precursors to humans, or as spirits of nature. The label of fairy has at times applied only to specific magical creatures with human appearance, magical powers, and a penchant for trickery. At other times, it has been used to describe any magical creature, such as goblins and gnomes. Fairy has at times been used as an adjective with a meaning equivalent to enchanted or magical. It was also used as a name for the place these beings come from, fairyland. A recurring motif of legends about fairies is the need to ward off fairies using protective charms. Common examples of such charms include church bells, wearing clothing inside out, four-leaf clovers, and food. Fairies were also sometimes thought to haunt specific locations and to lead travellers astray using will-o'-the-wisps. Before the advent of modern medicine, Fairies were often blamed for sickness, including tuberculosis and birth deformities. In addition to their folkloric origins, fairies were a common feature of Renaissance literature and Romantic art, and were especially popular in the United Kingdom during the Victorian and Edwardian eras. The Celtic Revival also saw fairies established as a canonical part of Celtic cultural heritage. The English word for fairy derives from the Latin word fata, meaning the fates. Various folklore traditions refer to fairies as wee folk, good folk, people of peace, or fair folk. Fairies are generally described as human in appearance and having magical powers. Diminutive fairies of various kinds have been reported through centuries, ranging from quite tiny to the size of a human. These small sizes could be magically assumed rather than constant. Some smaller fairies could expand their figures to imitate humans. On Orkney, fairies were described as short in stature, dressed in dark grey, and sometimes seen in armour. In some folklore, fairies have green eyes. Some depictions of fairies show them with footwear, others as barefoot. Wings, while common in Victorian and later artworks, are rare in fair folk. Fairies flew by means of magic, sometimes perched on ragwort stems or the backs of birds. Modern illustrations often include dragonfly or butterfly wings. Various folklorists have proposed classification systems for fairies. Using terms popularised by W.B. Yeats, trooping fairies are those who appear in groups and might form settlements, as opposed to solitary fairies who do not live or associate with others of their kind. In this context, the term fairy is usually held in a wider sense, including various smaller beings such as dwarves and elves of Germanic folklore. In Scottish folklore, fairies are divided into the Seelie court, more beneficially inclined but still dangerous, and the unseelie court, more malicious. While fairies of the Seelie court enjoyed playing general harmless pranks on humans, those of the unseelie court often brought harm to humans for entertainment. Both could be dangerous to humans if offended. Some scholars have cautioned against the overuse of dividing fairies into types. British folklore historian Simon Young noted that classification varies widely from researcher to researcher and pointed out that it does not necessarily reflect old beliefs, since those people living hundreds of years ago did not structure their experiences as we do. A considerable amount of lore about fairies revolves around changelings, fairies left in the place of stolen humans. In particular, folklore describes how to prevent the fairies from stealing babies and substituting changelings, and abducting older people as well. The theme of the swap child is common in medieval literature and reflects concern over infants thought to be afflicted with unexplained diseases, disorders, or developmental disabilities. In pre-industrial Europe, a peasant's family's subsistence frequently depended upon the productive labour of each member, and a person who was a permanent drain on the family's scarce resources could pose a threat to the survival of the entire family. Fairies appear as significant characters in William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is set simultaneously in the woodland and in the realm of fairyland, under the light of the moon, and in which a disturbance of nature caused by a fairy dispute creates tension underlying the plot and informing the actions of the characters. According to Maurice Hunt, chair of the English department at Baylor University, the blurring of the identities of fantasy and reality makes possible that pleasing narcotic dreaminess associated with the fairies of the play. A story of the origin of fairies appears in a chapter about Peter Pan in J.M. Barrie's 1902 novel The Little White Bird, and was incorporated into his later works about the character. Barrie wrote, "When the first baby laughed for the first time, his laugh broke into 1,000,000 pieces and they all went skipping about. That was the beginning of fairies." Fairies are seen in Neverland and in Peter and Wendy, the 1911 novel version of Barrie's famous Peter Pan stories, and its character Tinkerbell has become a pop culture icon. Fairies also appear in the work of C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, Sarah J. Maas, Holly Black, and many more. Images of fairies have appeared as illustrations, often in books of fairy tales, as well as in photographic media and sculpture. The fairy doors of Ann Arbor are small doors installed into local buildings. Local children believe these are the front doors of fairy houses, and in some cases, small furniture, dishes, and various other things can be seen beyond the doors. The Victorian era was particularly noted for fairy paintings. The Victorian painter Richard Dadd created paintings of fairy folk with a sinister and maligned tone. Fairy-like characters can be seen in TV shows and movies such as Carnival Row, Lost Girl, Supernatural, True Blood, Winx Club, Labyrinth, Hook, Moulin Rouge, and many more. Well, my friends, that is the folklore of fairies, and I was interested to discover that it's only a fairly recent thing that fairies have wings. So what did you learn that was new about fairies? Let me know in the comments below, and yeah, I hope that you learnt lots of fun things and enjoyed seeing me colour this page. I'm really quite happy with how it turned out. Yeah, so it was lots of fun to get back into this Mythical Minis series. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!